Welcome to Dar Headlines. I'm Helen now. Thank you for joining us. A year ago, Typhoon Haiyan struck central Philippines, leaving tens of thousands of people dead or missing and millions homeless. In commemoration of the one-year anniversary of the disaster, the City Philippines chapter held an event at the prefab housing unit in Palo and invited Typhoon Haiyan survivors, local government officials, and humanitarian relief organizations to take part.
Although it has been a year since Typhoon Haiyan, residents longing for their departed loved ones still lingers.
We gather here today to bless this gravesite and to pray for our brothers and sisters.
In November of 2013, Typhoon Haiyan claimed the lives of more than 6,300 people and left some 25,000 missing. The typhoon damaged practically everything in its path. However, it was love that lifted the city out from the ruins.
1, 2, 3.
Seeing their faces being here during the first week, like Chuchi, the United Nations, I cannot name all, but there are lots of them who are here, and it calmed them down. It made them stand up and work.
In commemoration of the one-year anniversary, Tzu organized a memorial service at the prefab housing site and invited local government officials and members of the public to take part.
So a house is a very
special symbol, especially to the Filipinos, where if you don't have a house, you have no identity. So giving a house is a very good beginning for our people, and I think it assures them of a better future.
Love kuno begets love.
Love begets love, and this village right here is a village of great love. Let us show our great love for each other and the Almighty.
1 year ago, when the Philippines was confronted with loss and destruction, various religious groups and international humanitarian relief organizations came together with a common purpose.
I think that there's still a lot of work to be done. It's not finished by a long way. But everybody's working together, international organisations, Filipino organisations, all working together as one family, as Suchi.
After the calamity, I think we can join hand in hand, and with a lot of love from everybody.
This natural disaster has brought out the solidarity and empathy of the international community and has further shown the Filipinos that love indeed exists in the world.
Saturday, November 8th, marked the one-year anniversary of Typhoon Haiyan. Commemoration ceremonies were held throughout Tacloban City in remembrance of the thousands who lost their lives in the disasters, with thousands of local residents as well as NGOs, including Tzu Chi, taking part in a commemorative walk to mark the day. Let's take a look.
It's just past 5 in the morning, and the streets of Tacloban City are already filled with people. Whether traveling on foot or by car, thousands of residents marched through the city to remember loved ones and mark the one-year anniversary of Typhoon Haiyan.
Today, many local residents and students rose early to make their way to the local sports stadium. Policemen and firefighters, as well as humanitarian relief organizations that partook in the relief efforts, are also among the crowd. A year after Typhoon Haiyan, the blue and white clad city volunteers continue to serve here. Today, volunteers were invited to take part in a commemorative walk in memory of those who lost their lives in the disaster. Merely saying thank you was not enough. Residents cheered Tzu Chi as volunteers make their way through the streets. In the aftermath of Typhoon Haiyan, Tzu Chi implemented a Cash for Work program that has not only helped restore devastated areas, but also revived hope.
Thank you for your help. Thank you for your help.
Seeing Tzu Chi volunteers passing by, Marianne and her daughter rush out to greet them.
Tzu Chi Foundation really helped us a lot with the cash for work, everything, and with the money, the donations. It really keep us started.
I just want to thank the volunteers, because if not for the volunteers, the road would not have been cleared, because the debris was until where? The debris was until here.
Along the streets, posters and banners have been put up on the walls by Typhoon Haiyan survivors, expressing their thanks to Tzu Ji. The words thank you are two small words that have big meaning. A young man drives his parents in his pedicab to carve out a path for Tzu Ji volunteers. The poster in their hands read, "We will never forget you, we love you."
The typhoon destroyed my home, but I managed to repair the walls with the money I earned from the Cash for Work program. It was all thanks to Tzu Ji. We are extremely happy and so grateful. We were even able to help some of our relatives in Leyte with the money.
Director of the Tzu Ji Philippines chapter, Alfredo Lee, expressed appreciation and thanks on behalf of Master Zheng Yan to Archbishop of Palo, John Du.
Thank you very much for the church support to us during our relief mission.
Yeah, thank you also very much.
And Master Ching is extending her personal invitation to you to visit our headquarters in Taiwan.
In remembrance of those who perished during the disaster, a memorial mass led by the Archbishop was held in Tacloban City.
The Lord be with you.
And I would like to thank in a special way the Tzu Ji Buddhist Foundation for taking a lead in the relief and rehabilitation efforts here in Tacloban and in the region right after Typhoon Yolanda. And my special thanks to Master Zheng Yan.
At the Holy Cross Memorial Gardens, where some 2,000 storm victims are buried, families and relatives bring flowers to remember their loved ones. Although the flowers will eventually wither and die, however, the blessings and prayers will always remain.
Since April that this year, Taiwan Tzu Ji volunteers have been assembling parts for the prefabricated homes that will be assembled in the Philippines for Typhoon Haiyan survivors in Sanshan. Over the course of 6 months, 36,000 volunteers from all walks of life, including medical staff and entrepreneurs, were involved in the project. Here's more. Using a grinder to smooth out rough edges, this was back in July, when medical staff worked tirelessly to assemble parts for the prefabs that will be assembled for Haiyan survivors in the Philippines.
We want to drill holes in these iron bars, so we are moving them here. This is like a relay race.
Besides medical staff from the Tzu Ji Hospital, many entrepreneurs also put aside their busy work schedules to volunteer alongside their children.
If we are helping out because we want something in return, then it is meaningless and we'll feel pressure and tired. We don't need to think too much, just do it.
Back in July, the volunteers completed the first batch of prefabricated homes. Many volunteers were deeply moved when they saw the parts being loaded onto the container truck.
No one knew how to load the parts into the container. We had to picture everything in our mind first. All of us were really thankful when everything loaded into the truck perfectly.
Over the course of 6 months, more than 35,000 people from all walks of life united in a common goal. Whether it was moving supplies, drilling holes, or painting, everyone happily rolled up their sleeves to help. Thanks to dedication, those in the Philippines will soon have a safe place to call home. In Cebu, Philippines, there is a warehouse that holds pieces for Tzu Ji's prefabricated housing units. Every day, there are around some 10 casual participants helping to move or categorize the parts. Making sure everyone is fed during mealtime is Tzu Ji volunteer Wu Meizhi, who at the age of 69 is still very active in Tzu Ji. Besides inspiring housewives to participate as kitchen volunteers, Wu acts as sort of a shuttle service between the local harbor and Cebu Airport, picking up volunteers and driving them to and from the disaster zones, so much so that the airport authorities even issue a badge for Wu to give her easier access traveling in and out of the airport.
The tickets are here. I bought them yesterday after I sent off a group. I then purchased more tickets.
Although she has her information and the tickets organized and accounted for, the number of times Wu Meizhi has traveled to and from Cebu Airport since Typhoon Haiyan is something she has lost track of.
I come often to pick up guests. This is my badge.
Earning the trust of the authorities, Cebu Airport issued this Tzu Ji volunteer a badge for easy access in and out of the airport. Although still recovering from a knee injury, Wu continues her job of picking up volunteers at the airport.
It's like exercise, it's not tiring at all. It's because other people can't pass through here as easily as I can. So as long as I am able to continue, I won't take a break from the work.
Returning to the warehouse, Wu makes sure everyone has plenty to eat during snack time. Her thoughtfulness is something her daughter has strived to replicate. Since haiyan struck, Wu's daughter's bakery has been providing bread for all the volunteers going in and out of the disaster area.
Even the workers here, when they know that these breads are going to Ormoc, Tacloban, or it's going to the workers that are helping the projects, then yes, they heartily, sincerely, help wrap the breads and then deliver it to the workers.
Helping each other out, many housewives were inspired to be a kitchen volunteer at the warehouse.
From my house, it is 2 stops to reach here. Approximately 15 minutes if there is no traffic. If there is traffic, it takes about an hour.
My grandmother was a doctor. She would see patients for free. If they needed medicine, she would give it to them as well. So my family has a history of helping out those in need.
Simple vegetarian dishes that are filled with motherly love of Cebu are the backbone of haiyan recovery efforts.
Next, we take you back to 20 years ago when the Tzu Chi Philippines chapter was first established. In 1994, the Philippines lacked adequate medical services for the poor, and with that in mind, Philippines Tzu Chi volunteers set out to work with local hospitals to provide free clinics for the needy. In the past 20 years, Tzu Chi's charity work continues in other forms like scholarship for students and cash award program for residents. In the next few days, to celebrate the 20th anniversary at the Tzu Chi Philippines chapter, we'll bring you a series of stories on the chapter. Today's story is about the beginning of the chapter's medical mission and how volunteers and doctors put their hearts into caring for the sick.
This is Mila, aged 55. She used to drive a pedicab for a living, but then she lost her eyesight. Unable to work, Mila came to the Tzu Chi Free Clinic Center in Manila to get her eyes checked. The doctors told her she had cataracts.
Due to her age and sun exposure, plus she doesn't eat well, she developed this problem. This is a condition that a person over 60 would have.
There are over 400,000 people in the Philippines who suffer from cataracts, but many can't afford to get the condition fixed.
She doesn't have cataracts anymore. It's been removed.
Open your eyes. Look how beautiful you are.
Dear Lisa! Unable to seek treatment for their illness, the impoverished stay sick and become further entangled in the web of poverty and sickness.
Medical services in the Philippines were really lacking. Back then, the master said sickness is the root of poverty, so I thought we should start with the medical mission.
To tackle the vicious cycle of poverty and illness, in November of 1994, the Tzu Chi Philippines chapter was established. Then, Tzu Chi volunteers looked for like-minded local doctors and medical staff to join their cause.
She saw the poor condition of the Filipino people, so she found people to help. First, she found Deputy Superintendent Liu, and Dr. Ke, and Dr. Lu Weiding. The three of them formed a team.
1995, Tzu Chi teamed up with medical staff of the Philippines Chinese General Hospital and traveled to Baigo for the first ever free clinic.
Every time we hosted a free clinic, we looked for a school to lend us their classroom. Although the conditions aren't ideal, we still were filled with Dharma joy every time.
The medical volunteers' determination grew stronger than ever after seeing the selfless giving of the Tzu Chi volunteers.
I clearly remember one incident when a patient needed to throw up after a surgery. There weren't any paper bags around, so one older bodhisattva just held out her hand for the patient to throw up in. Who does that?
用手，谁会这样做啊？
That person was Shi Shousha, whom everyone fondly calls Aunt Shousha. When asked what she thought of that moment, her answer is the same as it was 20 years ago.
I wasn't afraid because I'm the master's disciple. We're here to provide help for patients, so we shouldn't be afraid of getting our hands dirty. We must hold the right mindset when caring for patients.
Remaining steadfast on their mission, Tzu Chi volunteers are the first at the scene and the last to leave at each free clinic.
Because of the volunteers and the master's dharma, we have continued on.
我们加油这样自己一起做。
Opening its doors in 2007, the Tzu Chi Free Clinic Center in Manila of the Philippines now operates 3 days a week to help more impoverished patients.
We all have our own areas to look after. Patients from Luzon Island were safeguarded by Manila Tzu Chi volunteers. Those from Central Philippines are held by Cebu. In the south, Sembayanga will take care of them. This way, it's less hectic.
On this path, for the past 20 years, doctors use expertise and volunteers their love to safeguard the health of the poor, and seeing smiles light up faces makes the effort all worthwhile.
In the aftermath of Typhoon Haiyan, 4.1 million people in the Philippines were left without roofs over their heads, including 1.7 million children. As most of the children were already living below the poverty line prior to the incident, the disaster only made their lives harder. Facing such hardship, many children have lost the motivation to continue their education. In our next report, let's take a look at how charity organizations such as the Tzu Chi Foundation have helped children living in the disaster zones find hope. Typhoon Haiyan severely traumatized many children in the Philippines.
I lost a lot of books and some were wet. The roof was blown away.
Following the typhoon, many children began afraid of going to school. This is 7th grader Facel, who decided to skip class to play with her younger sister. To give their children a place to continue their education, disaster survivors in Armagh City transformed a government-built home into a temporary classroom. Currently, more than 30 students are studying in this space that is less than 20 square meters.
I feel really bad for my students. Some of them cried when they saw the rain outside, and teachers would cry with them too.
Despite being 9 months pregnant and is about to give birth, Fatima still continues to teach.
I hope my child will study hard in the future. This is my only wish. I think knowledge is something that I can pass on to him, and no one will be able to take it away.
Although knowing that education is important for these children, without enough resources, education is very limited for those living in the disaster zones.
Before Typhoon Haiyan struck the Philippines, there were more than 40 classrooms in his school. Currently, students have to share classrooms because half of the rooms were destroyed.
As most of the classrooms are still without power, the learning environment is less than ideal after sunset.
We have been studying in a harsh environment following Typhoon Haiyan because many classrooms are now without roofs. Sometimes we get wet when we are in school.
Following the storm, 4.1 million residents were left homeless, including 1.7 million children. In fact, prior to the incident, more than 40% were already living below the poverty line.
Life is very hard because I have a lot of responsibility to fulfill. I need to take care of my younger siblings, study, and clean up my home.
Despite having to share household chores, 4th grader Wilfredo has never given up on his studies. By flipping through his notebook, one can tell that the boy is very creative. Although Wilfredo is only 10 years old, he is forced to be mature beyond his years because
I felt very sad because we didn't have food to eat. Now mother has to work really hard to put food on the table.
Following the storm, Marianne and her children were left homeless. As a single mother, Marianne not only has to look after her children, but also manage to put food on the table.
I told my children that I participate in Tzuji's Cash for Work program because I want to provide a better living environment for them.
Thanks to Tzuji, this family has learned to let go of the past and embrace the future.
My life has changed for the better since I joined Tzuji. When people see me in Tzuji uniform, they always call me Tzuji, Tzuji.
For many disaster survivors, Tzuji symbolizes hope. As life slowly returns to normal, many students have also learned to put the tragedy behind them.
Really a big help in the part of our students, in our teachers, for the future of our students, for their studies.
With the assistance of charity organizations like Tzuji, children here have begun to regain their smiles. Despite the road to recovery being long, with hope in their hearts, these youngsters are ready to embrace a brighter future.